Texas homophobes just started a fight with California after being called out for discrimination. A major queer-supportive bill just passed in Virginia. Marriage equality just started in Northern Ireland. And politicians in Switzerland are stalling to prevent the freedom to marry there. And doctors in South Dakota don't have to worry about going to jail for supporting trans youth. For now. We'll have the week's top LGBTQ news and actions you can take on Weekly Debrief. Weekly Debrief is made possible with your support on Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/mattbaum to support the show and get some backer rewards. 3 years ago, Texas passed a bunch of homophobic laws, and in response, California passed a ban on state employees spending taxpayer money on trips to Texas. Well, now Texas is suing California over the policy, saying that it's not fair for California to discriminate against Texas just because Texas wants to discriminate against queer people. If that seems a little ridiculous, it's because it is, but the fact that Texas has filed a lawsuit probably means that the ban is having the desired effect, that is, imposing economic penalties on a state for being discriminatory. The case could be heard by the U.S. Supreme Court, and if California prevails, it could force Texas to choose between upholding homophobic laws or losing a ton of money. Good news from Virginia, where the legislature has passed a comprehensive equality act. The bill had failed 4 previous sessions, but in the last election, voters kicked out a bunch of Republicans, and now the bill, which protects citizens on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity, is likely to head to the governor for signature in the next few months. Marriage equality has begun in Northern Ireland. Just like in Virginia, Conservatives had blocked the legislation for years despite overwhelming public support. The British government finally intervened, which they can do thanks to a pretty complicated labyrinth of government systems in the UK, and now the freedom to marry is finally the law of the land throughout the United Kingdom. And one more piece of good news. An attempt to block trans kids from getting medical care has failed, for now, in South Dakota. The Republican bill would have imposed jail time for doctors who provide treatment to transgender youth, but it proved to be a pretty unpopular idea with legislators from both parties. Homophobic activists in South Dakota have indicated that they'll try again next year, though, so the fight's probably not over yet. Finally this week, a new survey in Switzerland shows that citizens there are impatient for marriage equality. About 80% of Swiss voters say that the country should legalize the freedom to marry, but as we've seen elsewhere, Swiss politicians are lagging behind the public on bringing the issue to a vote. So this week's action item is to support the work of Pink Cross at pinkcross.ch. They're one of the country's leading LGBTQ groups, and they'll need support from around the world to advance inclusive projects for queer citizens. As always, let me know about stories that need covering at Matt Baum on Twitter and on YouTube. And if you find these videos helpful, head over to patreon.com/mattbaum to pledge your support and help keep them coming. I'll debrief you next week.